I have with me in studio, live and well, Mike. I want to make sure I do this right. Cernovich. Mike is author of Guerrilla Mindset and Danger and Play. Essays on embracing masculinity.
Yes.
Embrace it. That's a good idea. He's a lawyer, free speech activist, and he writes blogs on his website, dangerandplay.com.
Yes.
Wow. Mike, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Thank you for coming in.
What a time to be alive.
I'm telling you, you are a very important person. How did you get to be so important?
I don't know. I don't think I don't think of myself as important, but my fundamental life philosophy is ultimately you impose your will onto reality.
Yeah.
And I decided that, hey, there's a lot of people out there who aren't saying what I know about the world that's true.
Yeah.
So I'm just going to share my truth with the world. And then if that truth spreads, great. If it doesn't, it doesn't. And it's spread.
How long have you been involved in expressing your views or spreading your views?
I've been writing online since at least 2003.
Oh, okay.
And then I started off kind of anonymously because, as you know, it's a very difficult time to write anything controversial under your real name. You know,
Yeah.
people, they hunt you down, they call your employers, they harass you, they send you spam emails. So I've been writing under my real name at least for about 8 years.
Are you surprised at how mean people are when they disagree with you?
Yeah, especially from liberals, because they're supposed to be the tolerant people, right? They're the tolerant ones, the open-minded people, but they're very hateful. There's so much malice in their heart right now. There's so much negativity, and I'm not surprised, though, because they are spiritually bankrupt.
Yeah,
People
that's
don't
true.
have to believe in God, but you have to have a spirit, and there is no spirit in liberalism. It is soulless, and because of that, they're like black holes of negativity, drama, hate, animosity.
That is so true. I started out 26 years ago, and in the beginning, I was surprised at how mean and evil a whole lot of folks are. And over the years, I've been called the N-word, sellout, Uncle Tom, coon, just all kinds of threats. And for some reason, when I woke up and started speaking the truth and trying to help, I thought people would appreciate it. I had no idea that so much anger and hatred would come toward me.
Well, that's an interesting theme you bring up, because it's something that fascinates me, all right? Why is it that if you're black, Hispanic, gay, trans, whatever, then you have to only believe one thing?
Right.
Right? Why can't you say, I'm a black Donald Trump supporter,
Yeah.
without people freaking out? And then what's interesting to me is, you know, anybody who's like me on the internet, they say, oh, you're a racist white man, you hate black people. And I say, I don't care I'll let black people think what they want to think. Liberals, they say, well, I have the right to tell you what to think.
That's
the
right.
liberals are the one who want to enslave minorities. I think everybody should think freely, and whatever race, gender you are, think for yourself.
But in the black community, you're not allowed to be an individual thinker by other black people, and you're not allowed to be a Republican. You're not allowed to tell the truth. Well, I do it anyway, but you're not allowed to tell the truth about what's wrong with black Americans, that they're not suffering because of racism, but the destruction of the family and the lack of moral character. You're not allowed to say those things. If you say those things, they come after you.
Well, have you ever heard of Hot Tep Twitter?
No.
So there's this new subculture of blacks, and I'm not sure how to pronounce it, but it's HOTEP, Hotep, and it's sort of like people like you. They're black people who are saying, we're tired of being told by other black people what we're allowed to talk about. So Twitter is kind of divided in this really radical, anti-American segment of Twitter called Black Twitter. And then there's a bunch of black people who said, we're not down with that. We actually love America.
Yep.
We love the free market. We love free enterprise. We're like the real talkers now. So there is a rising subculture of black men especially who realize that feminism is oppressing black men.
Yeah, that's right. Absolutely.
Destroyed
wow, I
masculinity,
had not
yeah.
heard of that. We have to look into that.
Yeah.
You predicted Trump rise. When and how did you know that would happen?
As soon as I started paying attention. So I hadn't followed the election I hadn't followed politics for years, and I, in fact, thought it was kind of a waste of time because I thought America was hopeless.
Yeah.
The Republicans,
Yeah.
They had no fight in their heart.
Yeah.
You look at what they let Obama get away with. There's no fighters in the Republican Party. And I said, well, America's done. And I completely checked out of politics. And I even travel the world. I didn't even want to live in America anymore because I just realized, okay, there's going to be a civil war eventually. Then I saw Trump was running, and I didn't really know much about the man. I'd watched The Apprentice maybe season 1, 10, 15 years ago. But then I saw a man who was a man. He's the first candidate in the Republican Party since Ronald Reagan that you would say, that's a man. They go, Donald, you said this tweet. It's offensive. People are bothered. And he goes, I don't care. You're worried about mean tweets. We're being attacked. We have terrorism in the world. We have people who can't find jobs. And you're worried about my Twitter account. So rather than apologize, he stood up against the media machine. And I said, great, this is actual man. And then when you look at his life, 5 kids, no drug problems, none of that Kardashian nonsense, beautiful wife, he's admired, success. And you realize that this is ultimately what people respect. They respect a man who has principles, who's going to stand up for himself, who's going to fight back. So he'll fight for himself, and he's going to fight for America.
That is so amazing. I've never watched The Apprentice. I saw, you're flipping through, you see it. But I never watched it. But when I first heard Donald Trump speak, his very first announcement, and he talked about closing the borders, you're going to put a wall around the borders. And he just said what was on his mind. I knew right away that I would be voting for Donald Trump because he reminded me of my grandfather. When I was growing up, men were not afraid to tell the truth. And they didn't care about the environment around them in that they didn't let that dictate. If you call them names or you say, I'm going to take something away from you, they still spoke the truth. And Donald Trump reminded me of that. And you're right. He is a man. He reminded me of being a man. And we haven't seen a man in a big way like that in so many years. Why do you think men are so weak and girly and afraid today?
They're feminized from birth. You're told if you're a man, you can't play rough, you're bad, you're violent, you're angry. And that is, of course, all due to feminism, cultural Marxism. There's a deliberate, it's kind of weird. I don't want to segue too much, but I was somebody who years ago kind of made fun of religious people, like, you're crazy, there's no devil, there's no this. But now you look, there is true evil in the world.
Yes.
Whether that's Christian
Without
devil.
a doubt.
There is legitimate evil in the world, and you can see they're legitimately trying to destroy fathers. Because what happens to children raised in single mother households? That's the single number one predictor of a negative life outcome is for a child to be born in a single family home.
Yeah.
Well, what happens when that? You make everybody dependent on the government. You make the people distrust each other. You increase crime. You increase chaos. So the people at the very top, the very evil, the really dark forces, they want to completely destroy the family because then the people are easier to enslave. You can't enslave a people where there are strong families, strong communities, and strong fathers.
That's right. That's what happened to Black Americans. Once the Civil Rights Movement started, they were enslaved by the government and their civil rights so-called leaders. They got rid of the fathers. The government became the daddy. And I grew up on a plantation in Alabama. It wasn't like that. I grew up under Jim Crow law. We had fathers and mothers and grandfathers, and even though we lived on a plantation, we had a strong family, and you could not control us. We didn't depend on the government. I didn't know that they had government. Never heard of it until I moved to Indiana. So you're absolutely right. When Trump first announced that he was running, he said things like, Mexico is sending their wars over here, and women are being raped. And I'm like, wow. It was so refreshing to hear that. When I come back, I want to know, are you a Christian, or how does that work for you? Mike, are you a Christian? Or?
I'm definitely not a Christian, but I'm starting to. I was raised Christian, and a lot of the things I sort of dismissed when I went to college and law school, I'm seeing a lot of evil in the world. So it's definitely causing me to reconsider my beliefs on religion. There are dark forces. There are dark forces, undeniable, in the world and in America. And once you really open your eyes, you can see it everywhere.
Yeah, you can. So you were raised a Christian, and at some point you moved out of the Christian religion?
Yeah, exactly.
And why?
Largely the hypocrisy, the Sunday morning Christians, the people who wanted to tell everybody how to live their life and they were living terrible lives. The Ted Cruz types, he talks, I'm a big Christian, I'm Ted Cruz, I'm a Christian, lying all the time, trying to cheat, trying to steal elections. People like him are ultimately why I just was sour to the church. I remember one time I was at church and they wanted to raise money for a new church. And they said, we have a banker here who will help you mortgage your home so you can donate money to help us build a new church. And I thought, I'm done with all of this. It's just all about the money and people lining their pockets.
You realize now, so they wanted them to mortgage their homes so that they could buy the church?
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
So do you realize now that you don't have to be like, Christianity is not about the people. It's about being Christ-like, not people-like.
Yeah, and it's more about, and I'm also more about recognizing the duality of evil and good in the world. I didn't really used to see the evil that I see now. There's normalization of pedophilia now. You can see it everywhere you look now. I spot a lot of this stuff actually on my Twitter, and I pointed out, and people, they didn't believe me at first.
No.
You can see 6-year-old boys, and they go, well, this boy is really a girl, and they grow out the long hair, they put on makeup,
Yeah.
and they sexualize little children. And then there are articles in Salon and other publications saying, oh, pedophiles actually are not bad people. It's just an orientation. Well, that's legitimately evil, and that evil is coming from somewhere.
Yeah. So were you raised by your father and mother?
Yeah, nuclear family.
And both of them were Christians?
Yes.
What did they say? Who were you closest to, your father or mother?
Probably my dad, yeah.
You were closest to your dad? Mm-hmm. Why do you say you were closest to your father?
He was definitely one of those dads. The All-American dad, coached Pee Wee League baseball, was always around. It's kind of weird when I talk to other people who were raised by their parents, because my dad was just always around. I never got the feeling that he gave up his dreams to have kids.
Yeah.
He was just always there, completely involved in our lives and everything.
Wow.
Yeah, it was.
You you probably do, but it's amazing. You are very, very fortunate. The worst thing that can happen to children, boys and girls, is to not grow up close to their fathers, loving their fathers. It is the worst thing that can happen to you in life. There's nothing worse than that.
Yeah,
Nothing
you can
worse
see
than
that with men, they become criminals if they don't have fathers, and then women who grow up without a strong father figure, they become very sexualized.
Yep.
They seek love everywhere they can, and then
Yep.
a lot of times they can't even form functional relationships now because they don't know what it's like to have a legitimately bonding relationship with a man.
I would recommend that men not marry women who does not love their fathers, because it's going to be pure hell, because they don't know the love of a man when they don't know the love of their father. So you try to treat them the way a man should treat a woman, they're going to reject it because it doesn't feel like love. They can't recognize it as love.
That's good advice.
That is so amazing. You, a day or two before Cruz dropped out of the race, you offered to debate him as a Trump supporter, and you were willing to put up $100,000, right?
Yeah, that's correct.
To donate it to a nonprofit.
Correct.
I was hoping that Cruz would do it so that you could donate that money to my nonprofit, to Barn. But Cruz never accepted. And why do you think he did not accept?
Because they look me up, right? So on Twitter, I kind of seem like this ranting guy. And then they look me up and like, no, I'm a lawyer. I am a constitutional law scholar. My written books, I give seminars. I'm more than what's beneath the surface. So Cruz didn't want to get into that. So from a strategy standpoint, it's lose-lose for Cruz. Because if he debates me and wins, which he wouldn't have won, he'll barely win. And then people say, well, why is he debating this guy, right? But he knew that he would lose against me because Cruz is weak on core issues. He doesn't believe in due process rights for men. There were these hearings held in Congress about whether or not men in college who are accused of rape should have due process rights. Cruz, nowhere to be found. That's another reason I supported Trump is
Really?
Cruz would not stand up for men. Marco Rubio would not stand up for men. Cruz wouldn't. So I would have hit Cruz and I would have said, well, why is it that you don't believe in the rights of men accused of rape? Should men have due process rights? Also, when other people rioted at Trump rallies, he blamed Trump. In what world do you blame a man who's holding a peaceful rally for the riots that happen outside? Cruz did that, so Cruz doesn't believe in free speech. So I would have hit him hard on all those points, and he knew he was vulnerable. He knew that his slippery little rhetorical tricks and the lawyer tricks that he knows, I know all the same lawyer tricks. He wouldn't have got away with that with me.
That's amazing. What do you say about, because there are a lot of Cruz supporters, and many of them are my friends, or at least I hope they're still my friends, but they say Cruz is a Christian and that Cruz will fight for the unborn, against abortion. Cruz is a constitutionalist, and blah, blah, blah. What do you say to all that?
My perspective on all this is that people who support Cruz are civilians. Cruz is the soldier. Political pundits are the soldiers. So I've always attacked Cruz. I'll always attack political pundits. But people who voted for him and supported him, I say, hop on aboard the Trump train, baby. There's plenty of room.
What do you say to people who say that Trump is not for the social issues? He's a liberal when it comes to social issues.
We're having a real change, a paradigm change in politics. Trump is definitely more socially liberal than Ted Cruz, 100%. But Trump recognizes that as a nation, none of these social issues mean anything if you don't have borders and you don't have cultures. So ideally, the total package, Ted Cruz, this was his election to win. If Ted Cruz had come out earlier for the border, for supporting American rights above the rights of other people, Trump would have had no shot, right? But none of these people wanted to stand up for America and put America's interests first. So because of that, Trump came in.
The Cruz supporters are so angry that many of them are saying that they would not vote for Trump. Hashtag Never Trump group of people, I don't know who they are, but group of people, they spent $75 million trying to stop Donald Trump. How do you convince them to vote for Trump now?
Okay, there's two categories of Never Trump people. There's the political pundits, and then there are sort of the regular voters. The political pundits are Never Trump because who really pays those political pundits? I started going through all these filings on who's paying people. The same people who run super PACs pay political pundits off the books sometimes to bash Trump. They're just stooges. Glenn Beck, all those guys, none of those people are honest. They're just stooges. They're mouthpieces for all these billionaire donors, okay? You can even trace where people like Ben Shapiro are being funded by big billionaire super PACs, okay? So these people have all completely discredited themselves. Now, the people who supported Cruz and who are Never Trump, they're gonna warm up to Trump. Ultimately, there's one thing.
Finish that point.
Okay. The Supreme Court is over if Hillary's elected. You will have no constitutional rights if Hillary Clinton is able to appoint people to the Supreme Court. That is so important right now, and anybody who overlooks that is crazy.
Mike Cernovich is with me. Tell the folks about your books and how they can get them, your website, your blog posts, and all the good stuff you're doing.
Okay, so I kind of have multiple little different media platforms. Twitter is a lot of politics, a lot of Trump, a little bit of mindset. Danger and Play is a little bit edgier. It's not always family friendly, especially the older stuff.
Yeah.
I always say, if your kid's a teenager, maybe wait till he's 16, 17 to read it. Gorilla Mindset is a book on just emotional control, how to never lose your temper, how to not have anxiety, how to feel good about life every day, how to create your own life vision. And that is like my magnum opus. Everybody of all ages, men, women, children, get value out of that book.
Okay.
So the way I tell people is, my Twitter is pretty edgy. You might see some off-color language. It might be a little aggressive for some people, but Gorilla Mindset is completely accessible.
And I want to ask about Trump's sister, who is a lawyer and who supports abortion. Some are concerned that he might appoint her. Oh, she's a judge too, I believe.
Yeah,
right?
federal judge.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Some are concerned that he might appoint her to the U.S. Supreme Court, and then we're stuck with this abortion issue forever. You say?
Not a chance. And what's great about all of this stuff? People who talk about the Constitution, They act like Trump is going to be a dictator. There's still going to be Republicans in the Senate. So if Trump gets out of line or if Trump tries to appoint a Supreme Court justice who isn't good, they just won't confirm him. Just like right now, the Senate won't confirm one of Obama's nominees because they don't want to destroy the Supreme Court.
Right.
They can do the same thing to Trump. So a lot of people are saying, well, Trump this, Trump that, Trump that. Trump isn't a God emperor. Trump is a president. There's separation of powers. There's still a Congress. There's still a judicial branch. So the idea that Trump is going to appoint a pro-abortion justice to the Supreme Court, no way.
Is intellectualism another form of emotionalism?
It is the way it's run now. So here's what has happened to the so-called conservative movement. They have allowed liberals to create the intellectual debate.
Yeah.
Okay, conservatives. Here's the way I always put it. Who do conservative pundits want to be liked by? People like you, me, normal people on the street, or liberals in the New York Times? They want to impress the liberals in the New York Times. They don't care about the readers and the regular man on the street. So because of that, they've adopted the liberal ideology, and the liberal intellectual ideas are completely emotional based. There's no logic to liberalism. There's no logic to victimization culture. And conservatives have adopted that. You even see that now where they're saying, oh, Trump is mean. Trump is mean.
I know.
Oh, well, that's not an intellectual argument.
Yeah.
And then you want to say to these people, man up. You're a grown man, and you're crying about what Trump posted on Twitter.
When I hear people say Trump is mean, I say back to them, are you saying that he's a man? Because that's what they're really saying. He is a man. He's not afraid to speak his mind. He's independent. He loves what's right. Look at the man's family. You can always tell what the man is like by looking at his family. And so when they say that, that's what they mean. He is a man, and they have not seen a man in a big way in such a long time.
Yeah, Trump's aggressive. That's what I tell people.
Yeah.
Yeah, guess what? Trump's aggressive. That's what men do. He's pushy. He wants to push as far as he can go. And if you're a man, you push back, and then that's how you kind of reach an equilibrium. Okay, two men are butting heads, pushing back against each other, and then you sort of meet in the middle.
I'm surprised when I see men who are against Trump. You would think that they would recognize their own nature, but they don't.
They're emotional women, you know. Well, that's insulting to women, actually, because I've met more women who support Trump who are actually way cooler than these so-called, we call them conservatives. They're just so weak and effete. The conservative pundits, they're afraid to offend anybody. Oh, what if I said something wrong and somebody gets mad at me? And what if the liberals at the New York Times don't like me? How do I impress these people? How do I make them like me? And those are the people who call Trump mean, because you're right, they aren't men.
Conservative. I've never heard that before. Let's go to the busy phones. 888-775-3773. 888-77. Jesse. Keith, a first-time caller out of New York. Keith, good morning, sir. Welcome to the show.
Morning. Thanks for having me.
Yes, sir. Thanks for calling.
I was calling in to ask what you and Mike think the impact of the technocrat elite in Silicon Valley will be this upcoming election, and if there will be a big impact.
That's a good.
How they'll get there.
Yeah, good question. Go ahead.
Yeah, that's a great question.
Yeah.
We've been following closely. So, Twitter, we have found they manipulate hashtags in very subtle ways. So, for example, if we start a hashtag that's pro-Donald Trump, it won't auto-complete on Twitter. Or it'll start to trend in Twitter, and then how you can see trending topics, well, they'll manually remove it. That way people don't realize how much support there is. There's actually an article yesterday about how Facebook does the same thing. They deliberately censor news outlets like Breitbart. Yeah. So these little curators, they call them, will try to just delete any articles, because here's what they want to do. They want to make us, and they made us feel like this for years. By they, I mean the media, and ultimately that's part of the same establishment, Facebook, Twitter. They want to make us think we're isolated. And now we're talking to each other on social media. We run Twitter. Trump runs Twitter. There's been articles in the New York Times. They're terrified of us. Journalists, Megyn Kelly, everybody is afraid of the Trump kind of Twitter team because we run it, because we're not alone. We are actually the majority. So Twitter has been doing it. Facebook's been doing that. The good news is that we've been catching them. And when you catch people and you call them out and you expose them, it makes it so that they're less likely to do it again.
I saw the story on Facebook just this morning where they were doing things like that. I was a little surprised, but yet not surprised because people get so emotionally attached to whatever their movement is or whatever they believe in. And once you attach to that, you destroy whomever is trying to destroy that you have attached yourself to.
Right. So there is censorship of media on Facebook and on Twitter. It's subtle, but on the other hand, Trump, we're bringing so many millions of people now that they can try to manipulate all they want. They're not going to stop the Trump train.
Go ahead, Keith.
Oh, no, that's pretty much my primary question. Just want to say congrats to Mike on calling this like 9 months ago.
Thank you, sir.
Right. Are you a Trump or a Cruz supporter?
Oh, I'm a Trump supporter.
Oh, all right. Thank you, Mike. Good to hear from you, man.
Take care.
All right, buddy. A lot of folks are talking about running mates now for Trump. At this point, there's no one who ran representing the Republicans that I think should run with Trump, that Trump should use. Now, but yet, those people are being named or suggested for Trump. You have anybody in mind?
Senator Jeff Sessions, that's who I want to see.
Oh, man.
Yeah.
Out of Alabama, right?
Out of Alabama, he's
Yeah.
strong in immigration. He's been Trump's immigration policy advisor. Trump needs an insider who knows how to play the game, okay? Here's the one weakness we saw this election. Cruz had a very strong ground game. Could organize, that's how he stole elections, could organize delegates and play all these insider games, right? Trump is going to be going into Washington, D.C. as an outsider, which is great. Fresh perspective. He's ready to raise heck. But he doesn't know how to play that game, all those little policy games. So we need Senator Jeff Sessions or someone like him in there. Plus, Senator Jeff Sessions, as iron sharpens iron, we need a very strong man in there to keep Trump on his game and to make sure Trump keeps his word.
That is an excellent. I was just thinking this morning, I was like, wow, who can he choose? Because I couldn't think of anyone, but I definitely knew that no one that ran should be it because they're all so weak.
Right.
They're all so weak. Jeff is a good one. Mm-hmm. You're smart.
I've been paying attention.
That's an excellent. Are you going to recommend that to Trump?
I imagine they've thought of it themselves. So right now they're keeping it kind of low key.
Yeah.
But Sessions is a strong choice.
I don't know of anyone else but him, man. That is so perfect. Let's go to Realist. Realist, good morning, sir. You're on the air.
Yeah, thanks for taking my call.
Yeah.
I've got a question for your guest. I see where Trump won. I wanted to ask you, obviously, Ted Cruz had gained momentum. One time he gained momentum, but once he starts surrounding himself with all these rhinos and all the establishment, did he or did he not, once he did that, committed political suicide?
Great
Hello?
point. Yeah, your question sort of answers itself. You're 100% right. Trump says, hey, I'm an outsider. I'm here to fight Washington. Oh, but all the people funding me are all the Washington insiders. So he broke frame. It wasn't, we call that
That was Cruz, not Trump.
Cruz, I mean. Yeah.
Yeah, Cruz.
Yeah, Cruz. Yeah, he created that incongruency where he wants to talk one way, and then he surrounds himself with all these Washington insiders and the elite, and that definitely ruined his game once he did that. And then once he started playing all these games with the delegates, using these insider tactics, he destroyed his own campaign. Had no shot once he did that.
And I know it was a rhetorical question. I was saying that more so for the Cruz supporters, which, you know, I was the Cruz supporter too. And some of the devout listeners, Cruz supporters, God just ought to wake him up truly this time. Because, you know, once he starts to surround himself with some of these crooks, especially this Lindsey Graham, and I keep hitting home this point, this guy called for his murder. This guy called for his murder on the floor, and you're gonna put this guy in your corner? What kind of integrity does that say that you have about yourself? You know, when you're trying to supposedly have the country best interest at heart, it says a lot. It speaks volumes, and the listener out there, he knows exactly who I'm talking to. So wow.
Who are you talking about?
You're talking to your friend right now through us as a proxy, right?
Yeah. I mean, come on, man. Wake up, people.
Are you talking about the guy from Georgia?
Lovejoy. I mean, let's put the country first.
Oh,
Is what
yeah.
I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. Let's put the country first. And I think Trump has already started as a man, as an alpha man. He's already extended the olive branch by speaking good of Cruz, saying that Cruz have did good in terms of he did the best by stepping down. And even when Cruz gave his speech about the country has spoken, the voters spoken, Cruz wouldn't even mention Trump by name. And he's so hurt as a child. Why don't you mention the man by name and say, look here, the voters have spoken.
Yeah.
They've chosen Trump. Mention the man by name. Be a man. Man up, for crying out loud.
Yeah, Jesse and I talked about this during a break, which is a man has sportsmanship. And Cruz lost fair and square. Here's what you do. Everybody who played high school football, good game. You're mad.
Yeah.
You're not happy. You're not happy you lost the game. But part of being a man is saying, all right, man, I fought hard.
Yeah.
I played hard. I'm going to try to win next time. But right now I'm going to man up. I'm going to back the Republican nominee. I'm going to make sure Hillary does not appoint Supreme Court justices who don't believe in the Constitution. And if you're not willing to do that, then that tells me you definitely do not care about America. So Cruz has to step up and man up.
That's right. Thank you, Willis. I appreciate it, buddy.
All right. Thanks a lot, man.
All right. What do you say to Christians who say, well, Cruz said that he is a Christian. Barack Obama said he was a Christian, too. We all see how that turned out. But how do you get the Christians to operate in a clear way when they are dealing with someone they like who says that they are a Christian?
Again, that's kind of what drove me away from the church, was all these people who would say one thing, I'm a good Christian, and live their life a different way. I think the way you loop in Christians is that you tell them we're saying Merry Christmas again, man. The war on Christianity is going to be over under President Trump.
Yeah. Mike, we have about 2 or 3 minutes left in this hour. Tell the people who you are and why they need to get your books and go to your blog and all the good stuff.
All right, well, thanks for having me on, Jesse.
Yes.
Mike Cernovich, Cernovich. Danger and Play is my website. A little edgier. If you're a Christian reader, read the newer stuff, maybe not read the older stuff. Gorilla Mindset is my book. It's a book on emotional control, how to control your thoughts and emotions, how to get over angst, worry, and how to have a more optimistic, positive outlook on life. That's why I was able to see Trump. Trump does the same things that I do. He says, I don't care about the hate. I don't care about the negativity.
Yep.
I have my mission, and I'm going to live my mission. Let the haters hate. I'm going to keep pushing forward.
Gorilla Mindset, is it on Amazon and bookstores?
Yeah, Amazon, paperback, audiobook, Kindle version, all versions available, yeah.
So you are a lawyer, right?
Yes.
And what type of lawyer are you?
Done business litigation, criminal defense, some constitutional law. I actually know a lot about civil rights litigation. At one time, I was one of the sort of experts on police misconduct litigation, constitutional law.
Wow. I'm so happy to meet you in person.
It's great to meet you too, Jess.
Who is God?
Great question. I think God is within us, and we have to discover him. But he's there.
He's there.
He's there.
And how do we know when we have returned to him?
When you'll have a divine understanding. When you start to feel feelings of joy, feelings of connectedness. I think that's, you know that you found God when you feel connected, because as human beings, we live like little atoms. We're isolated. We don't have a romantic relationships. We're just trying to, get laid. We don't care about emotional connection.
Yeah.
So you have to connect with the universe. You have to connect with God, connect with your family. When you feel that you're connected, that's when you know you're with God.
That's amazing. Do you pray?
Wouldn't call it traditional Christian prayer, but I certainly every day spend deep breathing exercises, focusing internally, focusing on becoming connected, finding meaning in the world. I think that by thanking people, that's a form of connection. So every day, 10 times a day, I have to find a reason to tell somebody thank you, because that allows me to express gratitude for what God has given all of us. Because if you don't have gratitude, you also don't have connection with God.
What were you, in short, what were you like because of time prior to returning back to God? What was your life like?
I was insufferable. I was a jerk, yeah.
Man, I'm going to have you back just to talk about those things. Thank you so much for coming on. I appreciate it.
Thank you for having me. It was great to meet you finally.
Yes, sir.